Number 10. Terrance Howard. Don't get me wrong here, I do really like Don Cheadle in general, but especially as Rhodey, but I can't lie, I was a little upset that Terrance Howard dropped out of this one. The problem here is one most MCU fans are well aware of, and it has to do with money. According to the Oscar-nominated actor, he was paid $3.5 million to play Rhodey with the promise of an additional $5 million more if the first movie generated a sequel. On top of that, Howard has said that he took a cut of around $1 million just to sweeten the deal when Marvel was on the fence about Robert Downey Jr. Now with the planned sequel of Iron Man 2, Howard was being offered $8 million on his 3-picture contract that then got whittled down to around $1 million as RDJ was now asking for a pay increase. Howard says he finally backed out of the deal and the role went to Don Cheadle instead. Howard told a live TV interview, "It turns out that the person I helped become Iron Man when it was time to re-up for the second one took the money that was supposed to go to me and pushed me out." And he has called the situation a $100 million loss for him. But since then, Howard has moved on, made up with RDJ, kept working, and he seems to have moved on, even going back and getting a doctorate in chemical engineering. Number 9. Edward Norton. This is another one most MCU fans are well aware of. Before even RDJ became Iron Man, there was Hulk, and he looked quite a bit different. Because he was a different person. Edward Norton was the MCU's original Bruce Banner, but he clearly did not stay. Unlike the Iron Man debacle, this one has more to do with creative differences. Edward Norton wanted to play Banner as a troubled, serious character, while Marvel was hoping for a lighter, funnier character more along the lines of something like Tony Stark. Honestly, I kinda think Norton was right here. If you know the comic book character of Bruce Banner, then I think you'd agree too, but alas. In addition, Norton insisted on rewriting the script daily as he went along. The studio went along with it, but then reportedly cut all of his additions from the final version. There were also reports Norton demanded to be allowed to take part in the editing process as well, but Kevin Feige said no, and the actor then refused to do anything to help promote the film. Obviously, Edward Norton is perfectly fine without being part of the MCU, being an incredible actor with tons of work to show it. There was a bit of shade thrown around, particularly from Feige and Norton's agent, but despite that, Norton said last year that he would be down with an MCU return. Maybe as a baddie, maybe I'll write my own. I don't know, I'm open to everything. I kinda have my doubts. Number 8. Gwyneth Paltrow. Gwyneth Paltrow has been deep in a pool of her own controversy outside of any kind of Marvel beef, and she doesn't really have a huge amount of beef with the studio at all. She just kind of wasn't all too thrilled with acting in Marvel movies, and she said she mainly did it as a favor for her friend Jon Favreau. In another interview, talking about playing the character still, she even said, "I don't think I like it anymore." That was before her subsequent appearances in Infinity War and Endgame. Honestly, looking back on it all, you can kind of tell, as in the Iron Man movie specifically, she sort of lacked on-screen chemistry with Tony Stark, and I mean, Pepper Potts didn't really become her own character outside of Tony's obvious love interest. During a 2016 interview with Entertainment Tonight, Paltrow admitted that she was sort of done with acting and didn't like it anymore. She was not even sure what Marvel movies she was contracted to appear in as Pepper Potts. That's how detached she was. It happens, I guess. Number 7. Mickey Rourke. It seems that Marvel had to stumble a bit before it found its footing. Iron Man 2 seemed to be one of those stumbles. Outside of the recasting of James Rhodes, there was the film's main antagonist, Ivan Vanko, played by Mickey Rourke. Apparently there was a bit of a creative difference here as well, but Marvel did also lowball the actor when they first offered the role. That issue was left behind, but Rourke thought that Vanko should be a multi-dimensional bad guy with a relatable side, and he even spent time in Russian prisons getting a handle on both the accent and the role. Marvel didn't seem to want this. Jon Favreau and Justin Theroux, the writers of the movie, apparently added the color that Rourke was looking for, but in the editing room, according to Mickey, most of that added dimension was left on the cutting room floor. This caused Rourke to heavily regret taking the role. While speaking to Screen Rant, Rourke revealed that he hated the fact that this character was portrayed as one-dimensional, and in another interview, he added that if Marvel wanted to make mindless comic movies, then he would not be a part of it. I kind of wonder what Iron Man 2 would have been like if they had went with it. Number 6. Christopher Eccleston. We're still talking about the earlier days of Marvel here, but this time we are moving to Asgard. While the first Thor movie was pretty well received from most people, minus Hemsworth's bleached eyebrows, as with a lot of blockbusters, the sequel failed to follow up. In fact, it's regarded as one of the worst Marvel films. Unfortunately, that is partially something to do with its main antagonist, Malekith. From The Leftovers to Gone in 60 Seconds and even being one of the best Doctor Who's, Christopher Eccleston has worked on a wide range of projects and has been pretty fantastic in all of them. But he wasn't particularly happy with playing Malekith in Thor: The Dark World, and it kind of showed. Eccleston had zero energy or intensity in the role of Malekith. Rumor has it that Eccleston did the movie almost solely for the paycheck, and he has also accused the studio of lying about the amount of work involved, specifically the 8 hours of makeup work. It just seems a shame because the movie might have succeeded with a better villain. Might. Number 5. Natalie Portman. Carrying on with Thor: The Dark World for a sec, it seems to me that many of the actors who seem to not really get along with Marvel had their characters done pretty dirty. And usually in some of the MCU's worst films too. Natalie Portman, who played Jane Foster in the Thor movies as an example. In the second Thor movie, Thor: The Dark World, Natalie's character was really whittled down to just a doe-eyed love interest for Chris Hemsworth's Thor. She received no character development of any kind. That kind of treatment of one's character can be draining and even upsetting, especially when you're an actor of such a high caliber used to delivering nuanced, deep roles. Another part of that movie's failure, and Natalie's disappointment, may come from the fact that the original director was Patty Jenkins, who later directed the fantastic Wonder Woman movies. Natalie was excited to work with this great director, and when that opportunity was taken, it changed things. Portman was pretty obviously missing from sequels and other MCU films until recently, likely because of this movie. Number 4. Hugo Weaving. Now this is more like an actor who wished they never took on the role they did. Or, at the very least, Hugo Weaving did not want to return. Weaving stated that as much as he was glad to play the role of Red Skull, it was not something he would want to do again, as that was not the sort of film he sought out or was excited about. In an interview with Collider, he had said, "It's not something I would want to do again. I did sign up for a number of pictures and I suppose, contractually, I would be obliged to, if they forced me to, but they wouldn't want to force someone to do it if they didn't want to. I think I've done my dash with that sort of film." He was asked to reprise the role in Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, but they wanted to pay him less than his Captain America salary for both movies combined, and on this note, he told Time Out, "I actually found negotiating with them through my agent impossible, and I didn't really want to do it that much." As some people know, he did not return for those movies, with Ross Marquand providing his voice instead. Number 3. Dylan Casey. Stepping away from Marvel's movies for a bit here, Dylan Casey played Will Daniels, aka Hive, on 2 episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Unfortunately, Dylan also had a substance issue which reportedly contributed directly to bad on-set behavior. He told the Toronto Star, "I was a 31-year-old man crying and yelling at work. This was bottom and there was no coming back." Unfortunately, he got a call that his character was being taken out of the series the next episode. He explained to production that he was going through a difficult time and said he didn't blame them for giving his character the axe, and that he would, quote, "do the same thing." On the positive side of things though, Dylan has since entered into rehabilitation in 2018 and is now fully sober. On that topic, he said, "I'm proud of myself, but I'm angry and shocked at what I was capable of doing. I'm physically healed but still have some emotional work to do. It's hard to put the pieces together. What I do know is that I passed through the eye of a needle and not everyone gets to do that." Number 2. Dave Bautista. Now, to say that Marvel never wished that they hired Dave Bautista is mostly a straight-faced lie. He was an absolute fan favorite as Drax the Destroyer, and he's incredibly nice. But what I'm sure they didn't expect so much was the intensity with which Bautista came to the defense of James Gunn when he was fired from directing Guardians of the Galaxy. He has said in interviews that because of the firing, things got really, quote, fractious between him and the studio. Obviously things have been mended since and James Gunn has been rehired, but imagining the usually lovely 6'4", 290-pound Dave Bautista coming into your office either angry or even somewhat bothered to give you a hard time about firing someone, I'm kinda sweating just thinking about it. Number 1. Finn Jones. Finn Jones played Iron Fist in the Marvel Netflix show, but the lack of diversity in the show led to Twitter drama, which Jones jumped headlong into. He tweeted asking people not to judge the show unless they had actually seen it, and he also claimed that of all the Marvel Netflix shows, including Luke Cage, that his show was the most diverse. He then quit Twitter a week later. Now, a lot of actors in Marvel projects put up with all kinds of flack. There is always someone who doesn't like what you do, or they may not even like the project you're a part of as a whole. Sometimes for reasons that may not make sense. In this day and age, taking to Twitter to fight the battle, while understandable, just doesn't seem to be the best answer long term for celebrities of any kind. Sometimes it's best to just take the L.
Taking our 10th spot is Tobey Maguire. There has been some serious blame on Tobey's rather quote emo return as Peter Parker for the third installment of the Spider-Man franchise that has people saying he killed his career with his quote awkward comeback. And while to each their own, of course, this may not be the full breakdown. In a 2013 Vulture interview with Spider-Man director Sam Raimi, Sam admitted that he was extremely willing to give Tobey a shot at redemption. However, it took him too long to put together the script for Spider-Man 4. This delay and the known fact that Tobey would be hitting his mid-30s that year the production started meant that Sony had to eventually pivot their original ideas. In the end, the 2012 reboot The Amazing Spider-Man was birthed with Andrew Garfield starring in Tobey's former role. At this point, Tobey already moved on with producing films like Seabiscuit and 25th Hour, both of which did well critically. Then came his follow-up works Rock of Ages, Pawn Sacrifice, and The Fifth Wave, which didn't see much financial gain. All this tied in with his public image crisis issue where Tobey got tangled up in an illegal poker club scandal turned off support for him. Currently, it's been reported that Tobey only has one in-production TV film on IMDb, which may very well indicate that Hollywood is about done with casting him in any major parts. Subscribe to Where Are They Now today if you think Tobey Maguire should get another opportunity to work in the industry. Taking our 9th spot is Jim Carrey. Back when he was reigning supreme in Hollywood, Jim was very much the undoubted king of the box office. Movies such as Liar Liar, The Mark, and Dumb and Dumber really pushed him upward, pulling in more than $100 million by 2000 and making him the biggest Hollywood hit of that year. Of course, anything can happen with time, and giving credit to the lower key comedies like The Incredible Burt Wonderstone and Mr. Popper's Penguins in the mid-2000s, Jim's box office hold notably softened. More recently, his status as a celebrity also took quite a blow due to his ex-girlfriend Catriona White taking her own life. This occurrence was reported to be the reason why a rather ugly ongoing legal battle kicked off. Taking our 8th spot is Jessica Alba. Jessica's working resume hasn't been all that impressive when you look at other stars from her time doing what she was. More so her 5 Razzie nominations and single win in her reportedly dull career. According to publications, several films she started, like Fantastic Four, Awake, and The Eye, were disappointing flops. As an actress, it maybe wasn't the best idea for Jessica to bash the scriptwriters of the part she was featured in and blame them for not doing well, because then high-profile media outlets like the New York Times start branding her as vapid. Nonetheless, Jessica's bad movie experience seemed to take a toll on her, as she revealed to Elle that she nearly quit her career after a director told her to cry more attractively. She also admitted to stop genuinely acting by her late 20s and noted in more recent interviews that she doesn't prioritize it anymore. Instead, she's focused on being a mom and running her consumer goods brand The Honest Company. However, this very same brand also has taken a hit throughout the years from various lawsuits over its products, even though it saw a value of over $1 billion in 2015. Taking our 7th spot is Sarah Michelle Prince. Sarah didn't see mass success like many thought she would after starring as the titular character in Buffy the Vampire Slayer from 1997 to 2003. Instead, she was often cast for horror films during her big screen transition, many of which critics tore to pieces. As for her non-horror movies, those were also reported to have not done very well, mostly known from her 1999 sci-fi rom-com Simply Irresistible and her starring in the Scooby-Doo movies, although I personally really enjoyed the latter. In television, Sarah didn't seem to be doing any better. In 2011, her starring in Ringer was cancelled after a single season, as was CBS's 2013 comedy The Crazy Ones, despite also casting the late Robin Williams. However, it hasn't been all negatives for Sarah. As a voice actress, she's seen lots of success and even moved on to launching her cooking and lifestyle brand Foodsters. She's also a proud mom for her children, whom she shares with her husband Freddie Prinze Jr. Taking our 6th spot is Tom Welling. Unlike the former stars on this list, Tom made his own personal decision to take a much-needed break from Hollywood. Though to be fair, he starred on Smallville for a decade, so his exhaustion by the end of its run was completely natural. But unsurprisingly, this break also meant once he made his return to the industry, he received very limited opportunities to reach greatness again, especially since he was more selective with the roles he was willing to play. Reports state Tom only included 3 additional movies to his resume since Smallville came off the air in 2011, and all didn't do much for the career he once had either. More recently, Tom attempted to snag a couple of smaller screen roles, however CBS declined to run a pilot where he would have starred as a CIA agent. However, in 2017, Tom made his return with Fox's drama series Lucifer, portraying Marcus Pierce. Taking our 5th spot is Jennifer Love Hewitt. Much like her I Know What You Did Last Summer co-star Freddie Prinze Jr., Jennifer's rise to fame almost parallels the actors to a T. In Hollywood, they both seem to have reached similar unfortunate fates. After riding a huge high between the mid-90s to the early 2000s, Jennifer's career started to slow down. Smaller non-hit roles like her part in the action comedy The Tuxedo in 2002 opposite Jackie Chan, the live-action Garfield film, and the very same movie that supposedly left Freddie's career in the dust, Delgo, basically halted Jennifer's prominence in the industry. Jennifer carried on despite this with a 5-year run on The Ghost Whisperer from 2005 to 2010, lined up with Lifetime's 2010 movie The Client List that later turned into a spin-off series. But this is where things burned out for Jennifer. Rumors that she was difficult to work with on set started to circulate, including an allegation that she demanded her real-life child's father to be in the show, which alluded to the series cancellation as a whole. Then Criminal Minds came in 2014 and all seemed well until fans rallied to petition to have Jennifer written out after a single season. Since this, the actress has yet to bag another on-screen credit or have any productions listed. However, this could be due to the birth of her second child and wanting to purposefully put a pause on her career to bond with her children. Regardless, Hollywood hasn't seen much of Jennifer at this point. Taking our 4th spot is Taylor Lautner. After his massively successful and important role in the Twilight Saga as Jacob Black, Taylor was set to hit superstardom level. But unlike his co-stars Robert Pattinson and Kristen Stewart, who automatically branched out from the teen fantasy drama film, Taylor piggybacked off the success of the franchise by choosing to only star in the 2010 movie Valentine's Day under his Twilight role. When it was Taylor's turn to take on a leading man part, his acting abilities mixed in with being typecast and it being overly anticipated ended up ruining his chance to push the bar higher. His first was in 2011 for Abduction, which was set to do poorly commercial-wise. The following in 2015 for Tracers didn't seem to do much better. After this, Taylor raised his desired future role's asking price to a high of $10 million according to reports, which obviously didn't work well for the entertainment world. However, it hasn't been all horrible. Taylor's seen some success within comedy, attracting great reviews for BBC's Cuckoo series from 2014 to 2016, and becoming a part of Adam Sandler's It Cruise, with parts in the 2013 film Grown Ups 2 and The Ridiculous 6 from 2015. Of course, he probably wasn't going to ever receive any Oscars for these, but these ladders have become fan favorites across the globe, and a win's a win if I do say so myself. Taking our 3rd spot is Taylor Momsen. Another Taylor who Hollywood isn't willing to hire is our former Gossip Girl actress. Not that she has any interest in returning anyway. By 17, Taylor was already working in the business for over a decade, starting with baby modeling at 2 years old because of her parents. Recalling this with Star Pulse, Taylor wasn't very fond, detailing, quote, "My parents signed me up with Ford at the age of 2. No 2-year-old wants to be working, but I had no choice." From here, Taylor landed her 2000 Cindy Lou breakout role for How the Grinch Stole Christmas, bagged a couple additional children's roles, and saw her biggest success ever as Jenny Little J. Humphrey on Gigi from 2007 to 2012. However, this is when Taylor decided to call it quits. She quickly grew tired of Hollywood and gradually drew away from acting to pursue music. Once Taylor's Good Girl Next Door role transitioned into a gothic rock frontwoman on Gossip Girl, the producers wound up producing her parts until she was dropped as a series regular in the 5th season. Though Taylor didn't mind much. In fact, she became rock band Pretty Reckless's lead singer. In 2016, the group became the first in history to have 4 entries sent into Billboard's mainstream rock songs chart. Taking our 2nd spot is Matthew Fox. According to reports, ever since 2010's Lost, Matthew's career has sunk both professionally and personally. Professionally, his movie career didn't make it far, with roles in Alex Cross and World War Z being unmemorable. Personally, Matthew was dealing with horrible headlines, including accusations of him striking a female bus driver and allegations from a former Lost co-star that he was a woman beater, as well as a DUI arrest. Despite denying the first two, Matthew alluded to Men's Fitness in 2010 that he considered quitting acting. Quote, "If I don't get any quality opportunities, you probably won't see much of me. I'll probably be doing something else." Taking our first spot is Ashley Greene. Despite Ashley not once resting after the success of the Twilight Saga from 2008 to 2012, she chose roles after this that didn't advance her career the way people thought it should. Her biggest credit at the time was a tiny part in Butter, a 2011 indie flick that made no money and failed to impress critics despite centering a cast full of big names. Her only non-Twilight screen credit out of 7 movies to garner more than $1 million in box office sales Girls was The Apparition from 2012, which earned under $5 million on a $17 million budget. This was also said to be Ashley's first official leading role, which seemingly served a double punch. For small screens, ABC's big-budget drama Panem disappeared after a single season, and Ashley's run in the one-season Canadian police drama Rogue resulted in cancellation. Of course, a lot of this is not Ashley's fault, so to say, but none of these have generated any particular buzz either. In 2017, Ashley had 3 post-production films in the works, but like the others, nothing much came out of it. Taking our 10th spot is Cameron Diaz. After she broke out as Jim Carrey's romantic interest in The Mask, Cameron soared up Hollywood's rankings and reached It Girl status. Through There's Something About Mary, she continued her steady force of success at the box office, tagging this with Shrek and Charlie's Angels, and took a rather respectable turn in the Being John Malkovich indie film. Yet in 2014, Cameron apparently went on hiatus following her starring in the film version of Annie. Her work in the critically acclaimed movie seemed to mark the moment when Cameron eventually moved on from hiatus to no return. In accordance with the Daily Mail, there were reports that Cameron disclosed to her best friend and fellow actress Selma Blair about her plans to retire from the industry and shift her focus to beginning a family with her husband Benji Madden. According to Selma, Cameron was completely over Hollywood and was serious about not stepping foot back into the spotlight. Nonetheless, once the news of Cameron's alleged retirement made press headlines, Selma expressed on Twitter how she was only kidding and inserted that Cameron wasn't retiring from anything. But as Selma alluded, Cameron has yet to be seen in anything since. As per People, Cameron's team refuses to confirm nor deny the reports, which obviously leaves the situation up in the air. But hey, maybe that's how she wants it. Let's just hope she comes back on her own terms. Taking our 9th spot is Meg Ryan. Meg was dubbed as the queen of romantic comedies through hits such as You've Got Mail, Sleepless in Seattle, and When Harry Met Sally. Meg was also a star in a burning Nicolas Cage featured drama called City of Angels. But once 2000 rolled around, Meg was at the forefront of intense tabloid shaming when reports surfaced that Meg was engaging in an affair with her Proof of Life co-star Russell Crowe. At the time, Russell was beginning to take over Hollywood because of his breakout part in Gladiator. Be that as it may, Meg proceeded to pick up irregular acting jobs, but her roles never quite amounted to what she was doing prior to the affair. And Meg held out for 8 whole years before she addressed the messy scandal during a 2008 InStyle interview. In accordance with the actress, the affair certainly took place, but only happened because her then husband, actor Dennis Quaid, was also allegedly serial cheating for years. Therefore, Meg described the occurrence to be liberating, despite it heavily affecting her public image. With the truth finally out, Meg did her best to bounce back, ironically starring in a film called The Women, where the plot revolved around a cheated-on spouse. Unsurprisingly, fans were not in tune with the movie, and ever since, Meg ditched Hollywood life to relocate to New York, where she has since put her focus on her children and navigating her love life with her partner John Mellencamp. Taking our 8th spot is Amanda Bynes. Amanda was definitely one of Nickelodeon's biggest breakout stars and certainly one of the most promising young comedic actors of the 90s. Amanda stole the spotlight at a remarkably young age while starring in the network's variety series All That between 1994 to 2005. She eventually scored her own show, The Amanda Show, from 1999 to 2002. The combination of her manic energy and her natural comedic element attracted a hefty fan base, and despite her first films not being classics, she had plenty of potential under her belt. Then 2012 rolled around and things became quite odd quite quickly. Amanda's fall from grace started with an unexplainable series of hit and runs, characterized by unsettling tweets and strange behavior. By 2014, the saga came to a close due to mandatory hospitalization. In 2016, Amanda's representative went on record to state that the actress was not suffering from mental illnesses, as frequently speculated and reported, but rather that she was using substances that were affecting her behavior. Regardless, Amanda has since leveled out in more recent years and has stepped away from fame to live a low-key life studying design and fashion merchandising. Taking our 7th spot is Sean Connery. Sean first rose to fame in the 60s as the first James Bond. However, the prolific Scottish-born actor wasn't slowing down anytime soon, it seemed. In fact, Sean proceeded to continue his formidable box office streak through the majority of the 80s and 90s because of his additions to Indiana Jones, The Untouchables, Highlander, The Rock, and The Hunt for Red October. By the time the early 2000s arrived, Sean was still in his bag, successfully seeing results from many, but behind the lens, he made a series of mistakes that caused him to walk away from his life in Hollywood. While it's a fact that Sean retired after the results of The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, the reason wasn't revealed until years later, surprising the world when he stuck around to star in a movie which he hated to the point of physically fighting its director. In accordance with Entertainment Weekly, Sean made the decision to refuse incredible back-end dealers, The Matrix and Lord of the Rings. The results of both films would have issued an insane amount of monetary gain for Sean, but he once explained that because he didn't understand either movie, he turned them down. In fact, he further pushed to Don Murphy, director of League, that he was certain he figured this one out. Quote, "I got offered The Lord of the Rings and turned it down. I was offered The Matrix twice and I turned it down. tone. I don't understand this movie, but I'll be damned if I'm gonna turn it down. Obviously, the scenario wasn't the most ideal for Sean, but on the bright side, he seems to be happily enjoying retirement. Taking our 6th spot is Joe Pesci. If you're from the 90s, chances are you know of Joe through at least one of his highly successful roles, specifically as one of the main villains from Home Alone. Joe became an acting force to be reckoned with upon his collaborations with iconic director Martin Scorsese in classics like Casino, Goodfellas, and Raging Bull. Furthermore, Joe proved his worth through his strong leading performance in My Cousin Vinny. Joe had a career most actors dreamed of, but he didn't care much for the fame aspect and chose to leave in 1999. As per Complex, the details of Joe's premature retirement are muddy, mainly because he seemed to want to be a musician at first. Taking our 5th spot is Renee Russo. Renee only carries a few acting credits to her name, however, she still emerged from thin air and steadily planted herself as a steady inclusion to the scene, counting her essential additions to 90s movies like Ransom, Line of Fire, Tin Cup, Outbreak, and the spicy remake of the Thomas Crown Affair alongside Pierce Brosnan's. By 2000, Renee was becoming a lot less noticeable in Hollywood, and her roles went from inconsistent to completely dried out. Once wrapping for the 2005 productions of Yours, Mine, and Ours finalized, Renee vanished for 6 years. She didn't re-emerge in any works until Thor in 2011, in which she acted as Frigga, who was Chris Hemsworth's Viking goddess mom. After rumors flooded that Renee left Hollywood due to her bipolar disorder, the actress later addressed the issue in 2014 by explaining to Showbiz 411 that her mental illness was not the reason behind her big screen temporary leave. Rather, she needed a real break after acting since she was 9. Taking our 4th spot is Gene Hackman. As one of the best actors of the 60s, with his career stretching back to just about then, Gene worked on approximately 79 films, including classics such as Bonnie and Clyde, Crimson Tide, Superman, The French Connection, and Unforgiven, alongside a slew of additionals that have made it through the long run. One of Gene's most acclaimed performances came in 2001 when he starred in The Royal Tenenbaums, a film he was originally reluctant to do after he learned that its director, Wes Anderson, scripted that part just for him. Fans were shocked when Gene later moved on to star in the dull 2004 comedy Welcome to Mooseport as his last acting job. Despite Gene never making an official announcement of his retirement, he confirmed his completion during a 2008 interview. Taking our 3rd spot is Mike Myers. For a long time, Mike was apparently the king of comedy. He even claimed the blockbuster successor title due to the fame of the Austin Powers franchise and Wayne's World movies under his belt. After bagging Shrek, Mike seemed unstoppable, but then he wasn't. Because in came the 2008 film The Love Guru, which hit theaters in a rather unlikely way. The huge misstep in Mike's career was the result of a 13% Rotten Tomatoes rating, which stole his surefire hit at the box office brand. After the sign, Mike made small cameos in the 2010 Shrek movie and Inglourious Basterds before he disappeared from Hollywood. During a 2014 GQ interview, Mike recounted his New York escape, stating that The Love Guru had nothing to do with his decisions and that he was proud to star in it. He chalked his leave up to his remarriage and welcomed his 2 children alongside his 2nd wife. Taking our 2nd spot is Taylor Momsen. Taylor was once a cast member of Gossip Girl between 2007 to 2012, but has since changed her actress goals to become a hard partying wild card. However, Taylor reportedly decided to quit Hollywood on her own accord while she was at the highest point of her career. Following her CW hit series exit back in 2011, Taylor shifted her talents to performing on stage as the Pretty Reckless's lead singer and rhythm guitarist. Moving into becoming a rock band member seems to have stuck with the former actress, as she once detailed to Entertainment Weekly in 2015 that, "I think when I quit everyone thought I was crazy, and now it's 3 number 1s later, so they were wrong." Taking our 1st spot is Lauryn Hill. Lauryn's impact on the industry is hard to exaggerate, as her solo album The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill broke records and branded itself into 90s culture. The million-copy seller earned numerous critical accolades alongside 5 Grammy Awards. Some of the album's songs were even incorporated into church choirs, including this with her work as a member of the Fugees, as well as her brief but loved roles in King of the Hill and Sister Act 2. Lauryn seemed ready to take over as a multimedia superstar by the beginning of the millennium. But this fell apart a few years down the road. Lauryn has since been branded as a flake, specifically because of her consistency in being late for her personal concerts, being unreliable with fans, and inconsistent with engagements. This has been generally called the typical Lauryn Hill thing, which used to mean, quote, move you to tears with her music, not cause you to rage tweet after getting ripped off.
I think it's a privilege to call yourself a Scientologist, and it's something that you have to earn. From Risky Business to Mission Impossible, Tom Cruise is one of the highest grossing box office stars in the world. Starting his career off in the early 80s, Cruise has been a huge Hollywood name for decades. He has the looks and he has the talent, but Cruise also has another side to him that people maybe aren't such a big fan of. In light of his latest blockbuster release, Top Gun: Maverick, people are speaking out about Tom and his involvement with the Church of Scientology, and they aren't happy. Today we are talking about Tom Cruise, Tomorrow You Decide. Let us know who you want to see on the next episode, and make sure to give this video a like for more Where Are They Now? Tom Cruise started off his career in the early 80s when he was just 18 after moving to LA to pursue acting. He initially received a very small part in the movie Endless Love, but in only a couple years Tom would be doing anything but small roles. In 1983 he was in major classics like The Outsiders and Risky Business, which is the movie that started Tom off on his big-time career. In 1985, Cruise landed the male lead in Legend, and the following year was when his superstar status was officially sealed with his role in Top Gun. Top Gun wasn't the only big thing for Tom in 1986. This was also the year that he married his now ex-wife Mimi Rogers. Mimi Rogers is an American actress. She is in movies like Gung Ho, Austin Powers, and Full Body Massage. Mimi was also a member of the Church of Scientology. She was raised in Scientology after her father had joined in the 50s. Rogers and Cruise actually met through Scientology when she became a highly trained auditor and he was one of her clients. An auditor in the Church of Scientology, for those who don't know, is a person who, quote, takes an individual through times in their current or past lives with the purpose of ridding the individual of negative influences from past events or behaviors. Mimi and Tom got married the following year after they met on May 9th, 1987. They were married for 3 years until they divorced in February 1990. After their divorce, Tom Cruise met his second wife, actress Nicole Kidman, on the set of their 1990 film Days of Thunder. The two were married later that year on December 24th. The pair adopted 2 children together, Isabel and Connor. In 2001, however, Cruise filed for divorce from Kidman. It was widely reported that Nicole's refusal to become a member of the Church of Scientology was a factor in the split. He was then in a relationship with his Vanilla Sky co-star Penelope Cruz. The two lasted for 3 years before splitting up. Vanity Fair put out an article in 2012 stating that the leaders of the church went on a search for a partner for Tom after his breakup with Penelope. They reportedly held auditions with actresses who were already Scientologists. This eventually led to a short-lived relationship with a British actress who eventually ended up leaving Scientology. Cruise's lawyers put out statements denying these claims and even threatened to sue Vanity Fair, but a reporter stated that he received an email from director and ex-Scientologist Paul Haggis confirming the story. So it seems there's a theme here. Date Tom Cruise because he's Tom Cruise, break up with Tom Cruise because he's a Scientologist. Now let's talk a little bit about why the Church of Scientology is so controversial, if you don't already know. It is very complicated and there is a lot to wrap your head around. Some of the key points are that they don't believe in psychiatry or psychology. They think the practice is corrupt and instead promotes spiritual healing. From the Scientology website, quote, Scientology addresses the spirit, not the body or mind, and believes that man is far more than a product of his environment or his genes. Man is an immortal spiritual being. His experience extends well beyond a single lifetime. His capabilities are unlimited, even if not presently realized. They crack down hard on anyone who criticizes or questions them with threats and lawsuits, following a strategy called Attack the Attacker. People have compared Scientology to a cult and money grab due to the cost of the religious training. Now let's get back to Tom. All while he is going through his roller coaster of relationships, he's starring in hit movie after hit movie. In 1996, Cruise appeared in the Mission Impossible reboot as Ethan Hunt. That same year, Tom also took the starring role in Jerry Maguire, which led him to receive a Golden Globe and his second nomination for an Academy Award. He received his second Golden Globe and another nomination for an Academy Award after his role in the film Magnolia. In 2006, he received his third Golden Globe for his role in Tropic Thunder. Also in August of 2006, Paramount Pictures announced it was ending their 14-year relationship with Tom due to his controversial public behavior and views. More recently, in 2015 and 2017, he was in the 5th and 6th installments of the Mission Impossible series 2 decades after the first film was released. Now, We know Tom has had lots of famous movie roles in films that we all love, but I want to go back to 2005. In 2005, Tom Cruise began dating actress Katie Holmes. A month after their first public appearance as a couple, Tom had his famous moment on Oprah when he jumped up and down on her yellow couch professing his love for Katie. On October 6, 2005, the pair announced they were having a baby together, and in April of 2006, their daughter Suri was born. On November 18th, the two got married in Italy. They had a Scientology ceremony, and there was wide speculation that the marriage was arranged by the Church of Scientology. Cruise's best man was the head of Scientology, David Miscavige. 6 years later, they took fans by surprise when Katie Holmes filed for divorce from Tom. They were officially divorced on July 9, 2012. Cruise stated that the reason Katie divorced him was to protect her daughter Suri from Scientology and that their daughter was no longer a practicing member of the organization. Katie stated that she was tired of the members of the church interfering with her personal life between her, Tom, and their daughter. So where is he now? With the release of the new movie Top Gun Maverick, a Top Gun reboot which was released on May 27, 2020, has been receiving a lot of attention. Like any time a movie is rebooted, especially when it features an original cast member as famous as Tom Cruise, it has generated a lot of buzz, both positive and negative. On June 11th, actress Leah Remini tweeted out supporting a screenshot of ex-Church of Scientology member Claire Headley's Facebook post criticizing the recent praise that Tom was receiving for the new movie despite his active membership in the Church of Scientology. In the post, Claire expresses her distaste for Tom Cruise by saying the release of the new film only reminds her of his crimes against humanity, explaining that in her opinion destroying families is a crime against humanity. She goes on to bring up his relationship with his own daughter Suri, asking when was the last time he was with his child. According to Us Weekly's reports in July 2019, Tom hadn't seen Suri in well over 6 years, ultimately choosing his religion over his family. Claire then goes into briefly talk about her own experience with the church, referring to it as a cult. In her post, she wrote they had forced her to do things that she didn't want to do. When she finally fled in 2005, she shares that she only had $200 in the clothes on her back. The members tried to track her down to prevent her escape, but ultimately she was free from them. Claire says she will not watch the movie, nor will she ever support this quote, scam of a man. You can find her whole post on Twitter. Leah Remini, ex-member of the organization herself, tweeted along with Claire's post, quote, "Thank you to my friend Claire Headley for your courage. You have continued to speak out despite the non-stop attacks from Scientology." And as Claire says in her post below, Tom Cruise knows exactly what's going on in Scientology. Don't let the movie star charm fool you. Remini left the church in 2013 after being a member since she was 9 years old. Since then, Leah has written a book and created a docu-series about ex-members' stories and the truth about Scientology titled Leah Remini, Scientology and the Aftermath. She often speaks out publicly about her experience as a member and the things that were practiced. She constantly uses her platform to speak out and bring to light what the Church of Scientology is all about. So, is Tom Cruise still a member of the Church of Scientology? Yes, and by the sounds of things, he doesn't seem to be going anywhere anytime soon. He has dedicated years of his life to this practice and seems to have made his decision. Will the Top Gun movie be affected by his decision to be a Scientologist? Probably not. But small steps are so important for making change, and I think these ladies, Claire and Leah, are using their platform and voices for good.
I know you took it. I know you took it. I know you took it.
I didn't take nothing. Yeah, look,
that's the
how many people were at that party? Why? That's the only party in town, all right?
But I was standing near
How
you
many
and
people were
Ellen.
at that
I
party?
was
So you
standing
stand
near
next
you
to
and
everybody.
Ellen.
Jesse Williams is a theater and film actor who is currently on Broadway for the play Take Me Out, a play set in the locker room of a baseball team as they explore social and cultural issues in sports. Also to know, theater has a long history of being extremely strict on people viewing the plays outside of the theater itself. It's notoriously difficult to get images of performances, let alone recordings. So when a nude photo of Jesse Williams was leaked from his play Take Me Out, the internet went crazy. It also sparked a larger debate about strengthening recording rules within performance art, and whether Jesse's autonomy was violated by the image of him nude on stage being distributed to spaces outside of the theater. Today we're covering Jesse Williams. Tomorrow though, you decide. Let us know in the comments down below who you think we should cover on the next few episodes of Where Are They Now. While you're down there, you may as well like this video if you enjoyed it so we can keep making more just like it. let's get into it. Jesse was actually a high school teacher in Philadelphia first before he became an actor. Following in his parents' footsteps, he taught for 6 years in the public school system, teaching American studies, African studies, and English. But after discovering a passion for the study of acting, he was chosen to participate in an actor's showcase presented by ABC television. Since that random production, he's appeared in tons of series, films, and theater productions. He began appearing in Grey's Anatomy in 2009. A year later, he was announced as a series regular. So, he became a Grey's Anatomy actor until as early as 2021. He and the executives of the show had come to a mutual agreement that his character, Jackson, had served his purpose and run the course of the show, and that his trajectory ultimately helped solidify 11 seasons of storylines, but it was time to move on to something else. From there, he went on to make his film debut in the sequel to Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, and 2 years later, he was in Brooklyn's Finest with Don Cheadle and Wesley Snipes. He also signed on to his first leading role in the horror film Cabin in the Woods. He was also executive producer for the documentary film Stay Woke: The Black Lives Matter Movement, documenting the racial discourse in America and around the world at large. Jesse is super active in social issues, being the youngest member of the board of directors at the Advancement Project, which is a civil rights think tank and advocacy group. He's also the executive producer of Question Bridge, a media project that focuses on the black male identity through art exhibits and education with students and teachers. It also looks at the diversity within the black male demographic, whether it be country of origin or economic background, and how you can still be a black male but come from all different walks of life. He's also been featured on CNN, The Huffington Post, and been a guest on The Situation Room to speak about his work in activism. Interestingly though, he did the voice acting and performance capture for the character of Marcus in the 2018 video game Detroit Become Human for the PlayStation. He also voice acted and performance captured for Duke in NBA 2K21. In 2020, however, he got officially divorced from his estranged wife of 8 years for what seemed like amicable reasons, although their custody battle was super bitter and intense. Quote, just a few months after calling it quits, the pair began arguing over custody of their 2 children, with Williams alleging that Drake Lee, his ex-wife, was restricting his access to them. In response, his then estranged wife filed for sole physical and legal custody, citing Williams' unpredictable work schedule and claiming that she was the primary parental figure. Meanwhile, she stated, quote, Jesse would join in when he was available and home, but he rarely took care of the children without my or the nanny's help and presence. Jesse became distant, secretive, and was home less and less, traveling for unexplained reasons while telling the kids daddy's at work. Another factor in their stability is to prevent the children from seeing a revolving door of intimate partners. Seems like it may not be so amicable after all when allegations of cheating get thrown around. In addition to fighting about their kids, Jesse and his ex-wife fought about money, with her demanding $100,000 a month in child support and then $200,000 a couple months later. But at the end of the legal proceedings, he was ordered to pay $40,000, which by the way is more than I make in a year, so. The judge also forced the couple to take parenting classes because the divorce was so bitter that the judge was concerned it would harm their kids' mental health. Like, that's how nasty it got. A temporary custody agreement was reached in February 2022, when a judge denied Drake Lee's request to reduce Williams' visitation with the kids as he prepares to star in the Broadway production of Take Me Out from March to June 2022. Just from the court orders I've read, she seems like a real piece of work. Anyways, now let's get into why Jesse is in the news. Take Me Out. The theater production is on Broadway and mostly takes place in the locker room of a baseball game. It explores themes of race, gender struggles, and sexual identity through the lens of sports. In one scene, Jesse is completely nude. Despite the very strict cell phone rules in theaters, where it is very uncouth to take any sort of image or video of the production, someone snapped a pic, however, of his body. Without his consent, they posted the pictures online and it spread like crazy. The president of the Actors Equity Association stated, quote, we condemn in the strongest possible terms the creation and distribution of photographs and videos of our members during a nude scene. Whoever did this knew not only that they were filming actors without their consent, but also that they were explicitly violating the theater's prohibition on recording and distribution. Legal action was also threatened because taking nude pictures of anyone without their consent can have severe legal consequences. While the theater was outraged for the distribution, the internet seemingly was not. The View, a talk show where they talk about pop culture, got a hold of of the image, and Sonny Hostin quipped, quote, "Jesse Williams looks like a specimen. He looks gorgeous. He looks beautiful. His body is beautiful, and this is serious. I have at least 20 friends that have now bought tickets because of what they saw." The ladies of The View are not known for their tact, but Hostin's comments and the many other inappropriate ones from people on social media touched a nerve as veterans on Broadway tried to grapple with the disturbing footage leak featuring Williams performing a nude scene in the play. The Actors Equity Association also summed up why so many people have an issue with the image being leaked. Quote, "As actors, we regularly agree to be vulnerable on stage in order to tell difficult and challenging stories. This does not mean that we agree to have those vulnerable moments widely shared by anyone who feels like sneaking a recording device into the theater." But when it comes to Twitter, one individual tweeted out, quote, "Jesse Williams is naked on Broadway, and I just seen what he's working with. I need tickets." It seems like there's this rift between people who are taking it as a breach of privacy and those who are trivializing it because he's a stage performer who willingly set out onto stage naked. Whatever your personal opinion, one thing is for sure. The publicity around this has been unprecedented for ticket sales. Right before the photo was leaked, there were only 6 remaining seats available online for the Friday night show. Those looking to buy tickets over the phone faced hold times of 45 minutes, and an automated recording warning callers, quote, "We are currently experiencing a longer than normal call volume." There's even a conspiracy theory that the photo was leaked on purpose to advertise the production. Quote, "If there isn't a masterful publicist behind this incredibly coincidentally well-timed leak, then there should be." Another theater lover chimed in and stated, quote, "Topping this kind of publicity will be hard." If it is a conspiracy, however, the theater production made the interesting play by vowing to install infrared systems in their theater to detect smartphones. If your phone is on, the system can detect it, and you could potentially be asked to leave the space. Even during Take Me Out, they had asked viewers to lock their phones in the lockers provided before the play, and I guess someone sneaked theirs in to take the cheeky picture. Now that there's infrared systems, however, don't expect to see any more nude photos of Jesse anytime soon.